Hey, good evening everyone, and welcome to the stream. We're going to be playing some Great Ace Attorney Chronicles tonight. Picking back up with that where we left off before we shifted gears and focused on completing Danganronpa 2. Get into that in a moment though. Let's check in with the kitties. Let's see. We have Ember over here on the side of the desk, top right. Upper left, we have Sky and Sherbet up in the cat tree. Lower left, we have Sammy hanging out in the little ring of towels on top of the little platform there. And then bottom center, in night vision mode there, we have Mason, the middle platform. Let's get some close-ups here. There we go. Oh. So there's Sky and Sherbet sharing the platform there. Then Ember switched over to the to camera 1, the glitchiest camera, for bath time. It's also the blurriest camera because Sky can't help himself but to wipe his nose on it. He does that rub his cheek against it thing. And we have Sammy all bageled up. Then and there's Mason. Been working on making sure that back room gets sufficiently dark so that they have a good napping spot. The camera that's over the pillows gets a little more light, but that back corner there, even though it's next to a window, tends to be nice and shadowed. So they've got a good spot. Overall, they're doing better. Mason continues to be very sociable. Sherbet getting more so. Sammy is still the most distant cat as far as being visible. Like, she hides out a lot. There are a couple of kind of spots that she goes to just stay away from everybody. Sherbet tends to be an arm's reach cat, but he's usually visible. That said, Sammy is a lap cat. She will come over to just snuggle up for a bit. But yeah, let's put the tree there. There we go. So, Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, we left off, I think it is the second official trial, getting into the investigative portion. The accused, which we'll be defending, is a Japanese foreign exchange student who seemingly was wrong place at the wrong time. Just a moment, let me give something a kick here. Try to get out ahead of this. Here's our Scotland Yard investigator of the Infinite Fish and Chips. Some of his aggravated animations are him just chowing down on that cone of fish and chips, and every time he shakes it, it sort of regenerates. So let's ease our way back in here. Tell me about Scotland Yard, Inspector. Ever since I read about it in The Adventures of Sherlock Sholmes, I've been fascinated by the place. She's a big fan of the novels about a character, Sherlock Sholmes, which is totally not Sherlock Holmes. Not too shocked by that. If I recall, the estate surrounding that is pretty touchy. I believe there are particular stories that are still under copyright, and they're very aggressive about that. But in any event, this particular inspector actually features by name in some of the stories where Sherlock Sholmes solves the mystery and effectively makes them look kind of bad. Not like incompetent necessarily, but that they're completely overshadowed. The Yard is the most sophisticated policing organization you'll find anywhere in the world, ma'am. Oh, and you know, I've always dreamt of wearing a real Bobby's helmet. It does make them look the part, seeing that policeman there with his helmet on. You certainly get the sense that this is a man who will take no nonsense in his duty of protecting the city. If they're willing to put up with the hat, then they're willing to go through with whatever they have to. And doesn't he look wonderful? Being a London Bobby is hard going, I can tell you. I wonder what the origins of the term Bobby as a police officer are. Tell me, Internet. Let's see, after Sir Robert Peel, who founded Britain's Metropolitan Police Force. Founded it in 1829, provoking complaints about the infringement of civil liberties. Named after Robert in that case, so Bobby. Interesting. Oh, really? First thing in the morning, you know what he does? Goes round and rouses all the laborers on his beat so they can get off to work. What? He wakes people up. Okay, you can see the infinite fish and chips here. One bite hits the fish, second bite hits the fish and the chips, then he shakes it and they pop back into existence. And pop. When he gets really agitated, he gets his whole torso into the bite. Yep. Raps on their windows with a long pole. Did it myself going back a bit. I had no idea. Bobby works for the people of the town. It's just another one of his duties. After that, he starts tirelessly trolling the streets all day long. He has to cover 20 miles a day. That's the regulation distance. This will be important later. I am seeing that my upload rate is just tanking today. So let's see if that recovers. I do have to come up with a different scene transition. That one is pretty expensive on the frame rate, actually. I don't know why. Well, I have a good idea. It's all the transparency, but you know. I have one that seems like it might be a little softer, but I'm not sure I like some of the details. Might be getting back into position here. It's still wobbling pretty heavily. Interim, you can look at kitties and jam out to Phoenix Wright style music. I keep saying it's Phoenix Wright. It's Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. It's in the past of the Phoenix Wright series, but it's still Phoenix Wright. His bitrate is all over the place today. Seems to be holding, so yeah, let's try with that. Look at bumping some of the transmission quality up in general, but not just yet. That regulation distance thing had the little chime with it that usually is a, hey, remember this. Can't really imagine how far that is, but it sounds like a long way. Let me see. $20 that's approximately the distance from Tokyo to Yokohama. On foot? That's definitely taken things a step too far. Haha. And when it gets dark, of course, he has the important job of lighting all the gas street lamps. I thought there was a specific profession for that, the concept of a lamplighter. Oh my. And I suppose in between all those duties, bobbies are expected to investigate cases as well? And chase after criminals trying to evade the law? I'm not sure you could call it in between exactly. More alongside, but yes. They're expected to handle those jobs as well. We do have men keeling over from time to time, I admit. The concept of the distance that they have to travel and potentially the idea that they are worked to their limit will probably come up. I'd always dreamt of wearing those helmets, as I said. But it's with a heavy heart that I shall have to relinquish that dream to you, Mr. Naruhodo. Your heavy heart will be my heavy head if you do. It is very much the same dynamic, the same general dynamic of Phoenix and Maya. But with Susato being, like, really competent as far as legal information. Which I think is better. Maya's presence was largely to facilitate both comic relief and the Deus Ex Machina that was spirit channeling. So not using that is good. Having her be there to say, like, hey, this is what the legal text says is actually kind of nice. It happened at around 5 in the evening 2 days ago, just there on that open bit of pavement. So, I believe a woman was stabbed. The victim, a young woman, was stabbed with a blade from behind. Yep. Is it right that the lady is still unconscious now? You mentioned that she's being treated in the hospital. I never said she was a lady. Truth is, unless she comes around pretty smartish, we won't be able to find out much about her at all. I suppose that means they haven't been able to take a statement from her, of course. Shoves it in his pocket. Here's a map of the local area I happen to have on me. You can take it if you want. Ember's coming around for a bit of a snuggle here. so I must comply. I'm near you. When she does this, she tends to interfere with the camera. Ember's a tail wagger. She's still itty-bitty. Definitely an adult cat at this point. She's got more of the general proportion and she's less of a cotton ball as far as like her look. She's lost some of the fuzzy edges, but she's still itty-bitty. She likes to come over and sit on my lap and belly a little bit. If I don't give her sufficient attention, she'll walk up my chest and lick at my nose. She's just purring away while I rub her ears. Someday I will remember to record their voices. Sammy's largely easier to catch if I do not pet her promptly when she comes over to my lap. Hey there, Levi. Welcome. We're just getting started, resuming our Great Ace Attorney playthrough. We've got a bit of a delay by cat here. Ember's getting ear scratches. How are you doing today? Stopped petting sufficiently, so I just got my my nose tip rasped by kitty tongue. Great Ace Attorney continuing the Phoenix Wright pattern of having a really solid soundtrack. But do let me know if the music is too loud for you to hear properly. Me looking down at the kitties is registered as me closing my eyes as often as not by the tracking software. So that is me looking down at Ember. More peeks behind the curtain. Gave us the map? Really? Are you sure? It's yard policy to give lawyers, defendant, suspects the odd bit of information to go on. Just whatever you happen to have in your pockets, you know. I haven't actually accepted the job yet, but still. Thank you, Inspector. We gratefully accept. Let's see here. Gotta remember all the buttons. They are very much not the Phoenix Wright buttons. Let's see. So we have Briar Road near the intersection. And explicitly calling out Meerschaum and Calabash here. Okay. Anyway, as far as we know, there was no one else on the scene other than the victim and your fellow countrymen. So who did it, do you think? Not much of a head-scratcher, is it? Well, I know Mr. Natsumi is claiming not to have seen anyone else around, but just because he didn't see anyone, it doesn't mean we can be sure that nobody else was present. Sorry to have to tell you, but we most certainly can be sure. We have an eyewitness. How? Because, ma'am, the precise moment of the stabbing didn't go unnoticed. What? We have two very reliable witnesses, no less. Two witnesses. Ah. It was a typical foggy London day, and your client obviously didn't see them. There were witnesses now? Who are these witnesses, Inspector? A fellow and his wife, and the man's one of the most reliable and respected citizens in all of London. He's a copper from Scotland Yard. A policeman? That might change things. And this police... I wonder if the weather has anything to do with it. We'll keep going for a bit, see if it repairs itself. If it continues to be unreliable, we may end early. We'll just have to see. Do you think it might be possible for us to ask that policeman a few questions? Be my guest. You can ask him what you like. In court tomorrow. Oh. I've no doubt he'll be summoned as a witness. So that'll give you something to look forward to. That's that, then. He's got no intention of letting us meet the man beforehand, it seems. The policeman witnessed the incident. As your judicial assistant, I must warn you that this could make our job very difficult indeed. Yes, as a non-judicial assistant, I could have As a non-judicial assistant, I could have warned me of that too. Oh yes, one more thing, Inspector. What? The person who led you to the suspect. I hear that was Mr. Herlock Sholmes. What are you bringing him up for? Was it something I said? Color has drained from his cheeks. That twitchy Japanese bloke goes on trial tomorrow. Are you going to defend him or not? Well, makes no difference to me, but I will just say this. No London lawyer worth his salt would touch that case with a barge pole. Seems to be a theme is that we're getting assigned cases that no one else will take. I wonder if that's supposed to be as much a, they have great faith in us and they're putting us on the hopeless ones. Or they need somebody, and so this foreign exchange student that we don't really care about, yeah, they can do it. I suspect after a couple of wins that will switch around, Because the prosecution is being handled by the Reaper of the Bailey, you mean? There's no way to save the man now. It's a waste of time trying. Not like that last time when it was exactly the same but we won. Though, to be fair, as they called out in the game. The man did die trapped inside of a burning carriage after he was acquitted, so wasn't considered all that much of a victory against the Reaper. It is all a bit strange, though. Sorry. The Reaper. He hasn't appeared in court once for a good few years now. We did hear something to that effect. And the only people he usually bothers with are the real scum, the master criminals, the violent ones. Master criminals? The violent ones? That's right. He handpicks his victims, only deals with those guaranteed to go to the gallows for their sins. But Mr. Natsume wouldn't hang for what he's accused of, surely. It was only a little stabbing. I mean, come on. Everybody's stabbed somebody a bit. Sometimes you just need to. You know, you're having a bad day, a little bit of stabbing can turn it around. You know, walk into the office, give everybody a nice warm greeting, stab somebody. Just brightens everybody's day. A little splash of color. It's just my point, Sunshine. Yes, the young woman was stabbed, but it didn't kill her. Couldn't even say the intent was there. See? Casual stabbing. So this isn't the sort of case I'd be expecting the Reaper to want to sink his teeth into, for want of a better phrase. It's not exactly a minor infraction, is it? No, there's got to be more to it. Some reason he's taking an interest. Really? What sort of reason, Inspector? You think I can tell what's going on inside the head of that Lord of Darkness? You'll have to ask him yourself at tomorrow's trial. I really do kind of want him to start pulling out like dark sorcery style animations. Because they've already got the vampire count thing down pretty hard with him. Really going to have to face the Reaper again? The Lord of Darkness, as he put it? Who did you hear that name from? Oh, well, it was Mr. Natsume who mentioned it. He said that Mr. Sholmes was with the police when they entered his lodgings. I'm sure it was the result of one of Mr. Sholmes' inspirational great deductions. Fiddle faddle. Huh? The man's an amateur, and I'm getting sick and tired of him showing his mug everywhere. Oh. I don't know where he gets his information from, but he turns up at the scene of the crime, wanders around spouting incomprehensible rubbish, and before you know it, he claims to have solved the case, angrily squishing fish and chips. Like, there's some tension there. You almost expect some mashed potato to squirt out the top. I would generally prefer that, personally. Get some fried fish and mashed potato. Kind of a mashed potato fan. Though, I kind of prefer... Sometimes I prefer the instant variety. The kind that comes in powdered form. Like, you know, actually handmade can be nice. But, you have a lot of control over texture with the powdered stuff. Easier control. Yes, he's quite astounding, isn't he? He is great help to Scotland Yard, though, isn't he? Gibble Gabble. Oh, I like that one. I mean, Fiddle Faddle is okay, but that's sort of the kind of thing that you would expect. But Gibble Gabble, now, that's some quality gibberish. We need some more of that in day-to-day life. See? Even she's taken aback by the quality of that. Ever seen this before? Oh, yes, that's Ranced Magazine. The wonderful publication in which the adventures of Sherlock Sholmes appears. Yes, well, that wonderful publication, as you put it, sees fit to include several of the Yard's detectives in its stories. And the so-called Great Detective makes a mockery of all of us. If you ask anyone in the Yard, it's a misadventure to be included in any of Sherlock Sholmes' tales at all. Well, I suppose there is an element of that. We work our socks off, every one of us, only to be frumped by the public, thanks to that obnoxious detective. Frumped, I say. Oh man, this game's gonna be a treasure trove. Man's as dangerous to us at Scotland Yard as he is to all our criminals. That can't really be true, can it, Inspector? You've encountered the man and his deductions. He's a danger to the legal system. Clearly, the great detective and the police have a complex relationship. Well, I don't think we're going to get any more useful information out of the detective. Mr. Naruhodo, can I make a suggestion? Oh, yes, what is it? Well, it seems to me that we must speak with him about this. By him, do you mean Mr. Sholmes? Yes, Mr. Sherlock Sholmes, exactly. Look at those shining eyes. You can't wait, can you? Oh, Mr. Natsumi did blame Mr. Sholmes for all this, didn't he? Yes, he did. He really did. Which makes him an involved party in the case. Are you just going to ignore that? I hope not. I assure you, it's not simply a selfish desire to meet with Mr. Sholmes again. The trouble is, we have no idea of the man's address, even. It's Baker Street. How do you know that? It's in the stories, of course. 221B Baker Street, the most famous address in the world. Second. Well, it is the same address, 221B Baker Street. I see. Well, there's nothing to stop us from going, I suppose. We better try to find our way there before Susato gets any more excited and unpredictable. I'll summon a carriage. So we're to have a reunion already with the great detective, Mr. Sherlock Sholmes. Click. New location has been added.
Thank you very much. It's just up there overlooking the street. Good day. Thanks again. This is it.
Fancy.
The residence of Mr. Herlock Sholmes.
Little pinwheel. So let's take this in a little bit here. We've got some papers and a letter over the mantle with one paper and the letter staked to the wall with a knife. A knife with an interesting curvature to it. A very curly-toed pointy shoe. See, a metronome. Then up on the shelf we have a single shoe, a wooden mallet, what might be like a red journal that might be like a bookmark tassel off of it, but it's kind of hard to tell. I'm gonna say that's a blue glass or vial of some kind, like a bottle. Other possibilities may exist, more disturbing. Then I'm guessing that's like a red necklace. Again, its proximity to the blue bottle might invoke other possibilities. Some big circular glasses there, like really thick-rimmed circular glasses. Some gigantic chess pieces. Looks like a black pawn that is way bigger than the white knight next to it. Any other really anomalous things? No? I mean, there is the map with a face card from Hearts and looks like a 7 of one of the black suits, clubs or spades, next to it. So this is where the great detective makes his living. It feels surreal to be here somehow. Oh, this is definitely more anomalous over here. It is as described in... Is it as described in the stories, Miss Susato? Susato? Many, many famous cases have been solved here in this very room. Oh, I suppose they must have been, yes. I've never read the stories, so it's hard to get quite as excited about it as she seems to be. The detective chases the villain relentlessly as he disappears into the fog down an unlit London street. Oh, the thrill of it, the romanticism. Can you feel your heart thumping in your chest? Can't you, Mr. Naruhodo? Oh, I suppose I can, yes. So if you don't mind, I'll just stand here and soak up the atmosphere for a little while longer. She had a very graceful rotation like that. You have to imagine her feet were doing some impressive work down there, since there seemed to be no leg or hip movement. I can't recall which anime it was, but one of the leads was from a traditional family that wanted her to focus on like tea ceremony and the like. And the old matron of the house would largely move around by being in the very traditional sitting position. And she would like skim across the floor by just moving her feet very subtly. It'd be like a almost like a little hovercraft or your kind of your bumper car kind of movement where there's no apparent motive device. Can't recall what it was, but it was an amusing scene. Please don't mind me. She's obsessed. Well, looks like our detective friend isn't home at present. Excuse me, is anybody home? Do we have a visitor? Ah, it's the little inventor girl. The one that made the multicolored grenade launcher and worked to retrieve it with some sort of bazooka with a heart-shaped aiming reticle. Hello, is it a big new case for Mr. Sholmes? Hello? Wait, aren't you... Oh, how rude of me. I'll go and make some tea at once. I'm sure it's the same girl. Miss Susato, did you see the girl who was just here? Oh yes, isn't it truly extraordinary? To think that the King of Bohemia came to this very room to ask Mr. Sholmes to take on his case. The King of Bowaria? King Wilhelm Gottsreich Sigismund von Ormstein. So the Suikoden series has a running gag in a couple of them where you're given an opportunity to take fake names, and there's usually like a kind of a calm or like regular sort of option, and then there's usually it's like Strontelheim von Rheinbach the Third is always another option. One of at least two options. Like you have another valid option that you can always take. And if you keep taking that choice, eventually a character whose actual name is Strontelheim von Rheinbach III shows up and is really concerned about all of the stuff that he's getting told that he did. I don't know where. Tell me, internet. Tell me of. Is Bohemia a place? I've heard Bohemian, but you know. The westernmost and largest historical region of the Czech Republic. No, that name had a real German vibe to it, you know? Sorry, I'm drawing a blank. Forget the adventures of Herlock Sholmes for a moment and look over there. The tea's brewed, and I have freshly baked cake as well. That's you. I knew it. Susato recognizes her too. So that was the grenade launcher that the thief girl had in the prior case. The, say, smoke bomb launcher that did various colors. I'm taking that with you as well. I was looking forward to the trial run of my experimental smoke grenade launcher. Good day to you. I'm, well, the inventor, I suppose, of that machine. She had the little puffed cheeks thing going. It's the girl who turned up at the end of Mr. McGilded's trial in the defendant's antechamber. I've never met a lawyer from the Far East before. Poor you, having to get straight to work when you've only just arrived in London. Oh, yes, it was challenging. Well, try this tea. It's my special blend, you know. It's either going to be good or bad. Oh, thank you. Is tea supposed to look that color? Listen to the music a moment. If occasionally that little bubble pop. You do such a good job with the music. A fragrant yet mellow flavor. Hooray, it's a winner. I tried blending different leaves designed to alleviate fatigue, you see. Must be exhausted after your long voyage here. You have another ticklish trial tomorrow. Oh, and you're to defend a Japanese man. I do wish you lots and lots of luck. Did Mr. Sholmes tell you about us by any chance? Oh, you know Hurley, do you? Hurley? Mr. Sholmes to you, surely. Mr. Sholmes was a fellow passenger on the boat that brought us to Great Britain, you see. Was he really? Well, I had no idea. Is it going to be that Herlock is her older brother or something? I'm afraid Hurley's out on an errand again today, even though he's just returned from overseas. Wait a minute. We met this girl for the first time ever yesterday after the trial, and only briefly at that. How on earth does she know so much about us? Did she deduce all those things, do you think? And perhaps more to the point, why is she here in Mr. Sholmes' suite? Oh, silly me. I haven't introduced myself, have I? Curtsy. It's a great pleasure to meet you both. My name's Iris Wilson. I live here together with Hurley. So I'm guessing this is supposed to be our Watson counterpart. Iris, is it? What a lovely name. What? What's the matter? No, wait, this can't be. Did you say that your name is Wilson? What's the matter with Susato? Why is she so flustered all of a sudden? That's right, and what are your names? Oh, I'm Ryunosuke Naruhodo, a lawyer from Japan. Oh, sorry. I'm Mr. Naruhodo's judicial assistant, Susato Mikotoba. So it's wonderful to meet you. Lovely. Susie and Runo. Got it. Susie? And Runo? There's more to this girl than meets the eye. I have so many questions for her. I don't know where to start. Yes, and so do I, she said, reading his mind. It was you that we ran into yesterday, wasn't it? At the Old Bailey? Yes, that's right. You were ever so helpful. Thank you so much. Oh no, not at all. I'm so sorry we couldn't have been more welcoming. Though at the time we did have a rather large gun pointed at us. Like this? You have to wonder, does she have like a duffel full of weaponry on the ground usually? She just pulls a bazooka out of nowhere. Would it be a bazooka with that sort of, like, bell look to it? You know, I don't know what would characterize the different types. Because you had, like, some of, like, the single-shot ones, like the Panzerschreck and whatnot. And I think you had varieties that could have a, it could be, like, loaded and refired, you know? Is there a characteristic that would determine whether it could be called a bazooka? Thinking back now, you left with Miss Lestrade in tow, didn't you? Oh yes, that awkward witness, Gina Lestrade. Oh, Ginny? Yes, she's a professional pickpocket. So we found out. It was very naughty of her to pinch my invention like that. Are you referring to that trial-disrupting gun-like contraption? It's an odd little aiming device. So there's the heart shape at the top, which, given that it has like a viewfinder on the side, seems extraneous. But the bell end of the weapon would make that viewfinder mostly useless. It at least half obscures the lens. She does seem to put a lot of stock in the looks of her contraptions. Hey there, Tass. Her whole outfit does kind of scream the steampunk girl genius, you know? Like, I can see the idea that the goggles might have that sort of plus look to them because of the rivets, but the heart bridging them would just be painful on your nose. Yeah, she also has the same little, I'm guessing that's supposed to be like a floral shape, the lenses. She has the same thing just under the belt loops on her corset dress dealie. Same pattern with the buttonholes. How are you doing today, Tass? Exactly, so I followed her, you see, to get it back. Perhaps I should think about fitting a self-destruct mechanism in my inventions. This girl is dangerous. Puffed cheeks for a moment there. Oh, there we go. Yep. You can see on the left cheek the puffed up cheek kind of look. Anime tropey. Anyway, I brought Ginny back here after that, so she could apologize to my trusty technician. Sorry, your technician? Hurley, of course, silly. Ah. So she is very much the brains behind the operation. Hurley? Yes, Herlock. Herlock Sholmes. We live here together. I had no idea the great detective had such an interesting young daughter. Daughter? Not likely. What? I wouldn't call him Hurley if he was my father, would I? Well then, what is your relationship with Mr. Sholmes? Well, I expect you found out that lodgings of any kind in London are very expensive. So the solution is to share the cost with a partner, a roommate. Your roommates? I hope you don't mind me asking, Iris, but how old are you? 10 at last this year. Well, what of your mother and father? Oh, no. They're not around. I see. Wonder what the story is there. She killed them with that rocket launcher. That must be the story. It was a pink heart-shaped ball of death. Yes, there's something I must ask you. Of course, of course. Go ahead, Susie. I'm a very great fan of the adventures of Herlock Sholmes, and... Oh, you have a copy of Ranced magazine. Yes, I read every issue. It's delivered all the way to Japan on a ship. Oh, this is so exciting. My stories are being read on the other side of the world. My stories? That's right. Hurley is also always solving such amazing cases. He tells me all about them. They really are quite fascinating. It would be such a shame if I was the only one who ever heard them, don't you think? Goodness. Last night he was telling me all about a new case he just solved on a steamship traveling from a faraway land. So I was just in the middle of typing up the manuscript for the next issue before you came. So you're the author? Yes, I'll let you in on a secret if you like. I'm going to call this latest adventure The Speckled Band. Speckled Band? It's certainly very familiar. Of course, I always change one or two details in the story, here and there. This time I had the idea of making a venomous snake be the cause of all the trouble. Okay, so that's the little story sequences between her writings, like the after-the-fact story versions. That was Mr. Sholmes' first thought as well, actually. Yes, and of course I know that a snake might not be a credible fit for the facts of the case exactly, but it's a story. Some poetic license is justified to make it more thrilling, I think, don't you? So, do you mean to say... Are the stories about Mr. Sholmes that are published in Ranced magazine all written by me? Yes, on my wonderful and very modern typewriter. But all the stories I've ever read are written by a doctor of medicine, Dr. John H. Wilson. Susato's getting more and more worked up. Ah, yes, that's me. I mean, my name really is Wilson. But what about the doctor of medicine part? That's all true, too. I am a doctor of medicine. At 10 years old? At 10 years old. Steampunk girl genius. Well, that's quite incredible. All she needs to complete the image is like a giant mechanical tool, like a big pipe wrench or something like that. Or perhaps a hammer. I mean, the rocket launcher is close, but there's usually an actual, like, tool. But Dr. Wilson is an English gentleman. Ah, yes. I did alter the settings slightly for the stories to be more compelling. Oh. Well, it sounds a little strange, doesn't it? A great detective with a 10-year-old girl in tow? I suppose it does, yes. Poor Susato. She looks like her whole world is just fallen apart. About before. Yes, yes, what's on your mind, Bruno? Do tell me. How did you know? That I was a lawyer and we just arrived in London, I mean. Yes, oh, and that we have a difficult trial tomorrow. How did you know all that? Oh, that's what you mean. Please, tell us how you did it. Explain every detail. Of course, I'd be delighted. Although there's really no mystery. Now, let's begin. So, the little circles that I think are supposed to be her eyes behind the goggles are always there. But it is kind of a cute look, isn't it? Iris Wilson is proud to present her Logic and Reasoning Spectacular. Okay, this is the Sherlock Holmes deduction music, the little twirling dance thing that happened last time. With the same, very, very well positioning spotlight. First of all, I knew already that you were a lawyer, Bruno. After all, I met you yesterday at the Old Bailey in the defendant's antechamber. But you also said that we'd only just arrived in London. How did you know that? I observed a passport and a travel ticket protruding from your breast pocket. Oh. So I was reasonably confident that you must have only just arrived in the country. And on top of that, you accepted a case against that particular prosecutor, telling me you were unaware of London's court affairs. The Reaper of the Bailey? I walked right into that one, didn't I? Then I noticed a red ink stamp on the back of Susie's hand. You were given that when you visited the local prison to meet with a suspect, weren't you? Early today. Ah. They use those stamps to keep a close eye on the comings and goings, you see. They have to know who's paid the cover to get in. I didn't realize. And a red stamp is only used for people visiting foreign inmates. So that told me that even though you had only yesterday concluded the trial of Magnus McGilden, the two of you had already had cause to visit a foreign inmate at a local prison. However, neither of you was wearing a particularly sad expression on your face. So I concluded that the prisoner was unlikely to be a friend or a relative. That led me to believe that you must have accepted a new case. I see. But how could you have known that the trial is tomorrow? Well, having barely been home a few hours yesterday, Hurley solved yet another case. It obviously amused him. He told me that he'd caught a Japanese man who was bawling and trembling. Japanese man? Well, clearly that must have been Mr. Natsume. Now, Runo has that fancy Japanese sword. And I think your outfit is called a kimono, isn't it, Susie? Well, anyway, it was clear to me that you both come from Japan yourselves. So I put two and two together and decided that you must be defending the Japanese man Hurley caught. And there was only one conclusion those facts could lead me to. You both came here to ask Hurley about the case. Wow, she's actually competent at this. There's a note on the mantelpiece that says the man's trial will be tomorrow. Hurley is always stabbing his notes with a knife, you know. He is silly. And that's all there was to it, really. Thank you for listening. I'm Iris Wilson, and that was one of my great deductions. Well, was it a winner? Were my deductions correct? They were spot on. That was amazing, Iris. Truly a great deduction. You even managed the certain something of Mr. Sholm's delivery. Oh, well, I was just copying Hurley's style for that. This is really very good news. You could tell us all about the case involving the Japanese man. You will, won't you, Iris? Please? So yesterday, Mr. Sholmes apprehended a Japanese man. You were... Apprehended a Japanese man, you were saying? Yes. Hurley had just arrived back in London after his sea voyage. But the police were waiting for him at the railway station to take him directly to the crime scene. Ah, the great detective is a popular man, it seems. Apparently a woman was stabbed on a quiet street somewhere in town. There were witnesses who had seen a short, shifty-looking stooped man running away from the scene. A short, shifty-looking stooped man. Mr. Natsume, with beyond any doubt. Soseki said that he didn't see anybody else on the street at all. But it seems there were witnesses, after all. Hurley used his great deductive powers to determine the man's address. It was a lodging room very nearby. He went directly there with the police, and what did they find? A short, shifty-looking stooped man shivering in fear. Mr. Sholm's great deduction certainly hit the mark that time. Of course it did. He's a great detective. Susato's fangirl nature has re-clouded her mind after having encountered his great deductions in person. Still, that means the incident occurred only 2 days ago. Surely tomorrow is too soon for the trial, isn't it? Definitely. We have no time to investigate properly. Hurley says that London is rife with crime. Oh. Scotland Yard is doing its best, but they can't stay on top of it, apparently. Oh dear. I hadn't realized the situation was so dire. That's why they can't afford to spend too much time investigating cases and trying criminals in court. Gotta get them in and out of the system. Chop chop. It's very much like the Phoenix Wright setting is the... Like, well, you know, we can't have these trials dragging on, so we're just going to set a time limit. It's, you're guilty unless you can be acquitted within the time frame. Staff and money are both short. Crimes are usually pinned on the first suspicious person. That's terrible. I suppose it's the harsh reality of the workings of the world's greatest justice system. I suppose it is, but in that case, I don't hold out much hope for Suseki. Thank you for answering so many of our questions, Iris. This has been very informative. Oh, you're most welcome. And I've had so much fun. Do you happen to know where Mr. Sholmes is at the moment? As you guessed, we'd like to ask him some questions about this case as well. Ah, well, I expect Hurley is still investigating the scene. Of the case involving Mr. Natsume, you mean? Yes, Mr. Natsume. Hurley said he was going to the man's lodgings. If you leave now, you'll probably catch him there. Iris, do you know where those lodgings are? Well, I imagine the police are still investigating the scene of the crime themselves, aren't they? Did you happen to come across a detective by the name of Gregson when you were here? There? Yes, we know Inspector Gregson. Ah, goody. In that case, give Gregsy this from me, would you? If you do that, I'm sure he'll tell you what you want to know. So, let's see here. It's got the look of a business card, but it's almost like it's got stitching around the edges, with a flower in one corner and a little marker in the other. There's some sort of coin on it, and then some text along the bottom. What is this? A 5-shilling piece and a postcard, it seems. Card for Inspector Gregson with a message on the back from Iris. It reads, "Tell the gentleman in black whatever he wants to know. I trust that won't be a problem." Gosh, this will make the inspector help us, will it? Well, thank you, Iris. I'll give it a try. Good luck, then. I'm going to return to writing my manuscript, The Speckled Band. I'll be making some more special blends of tea, so come back again soon. We'd be delighted. Thank you so much, Iris. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, it's back to the scene of the crime. So, somewhat dubious that they would exert any influence over the men of Scotland Yard at all, we headed back to the scene with Iris's curious note and one of the world's heaviest silver coins in hand. I mean, if that's the size of a postcard, maybe like silver dollar sized? Oh, okay. I recall having trouble reading the sign below Daily News there. So, Daily News, the Metropolitan, and then Robin Williams, and it looks like Practical Optician under it. The Practical Optician is kind of tricky. Kind of smudged. Looks as though the police are still here, carrying on with their investigation. Perfect, so let's find Inspector Gregson as quickly as possible. Yes, and let's see if he'll take a break from his chips to look at that silver tip Iris gave us for him. This is a 5-shilling piece, isn't it? I believe it's called a crown. Yes, and you can train a Scotland Yard detective to do whatever you want with just a single one. Iris would be the most powerful 10-year-old in the world. Must be the most powerful 10-year-old in the world. How much is 5 shillings, by the way? What's it really worth? Well, it's probably enough to buy all the chips the inspector could possibly eat in a whole month. That's greasy. Inspector Gregson, do you have a moment? I'm sorry to say I don't. I'm a very busy man. Much too busy to talk to a pair of foreign cadabouts, that's for sure. We have these for you. A present from Miss Iris Wilson. What? For me? From her ladyship? Her ladyship? Give that here at once. Come on, hand it over. That's for me. That is an unexpected reaction. Don't wait for me to give it to you, will you? What was that coin? What was that coin exactly? It's a silver crown, obviously, but it's a lot more than that. It's an appearance fee, that's what it is. An appearance fee? Oh, I see, you mean... That's right, for the adventures of Herlock Sholmes. Her ladyship always offers me a financial reward for featuring me, every time. He gets some royalties for getting stomped on in the book. Yes, yes, of course. I know all about your exploits, Inspector. I read them avidly. Of course, her using my name without my say-so does make me the butt of a lot of unpleasant jokes, but still. I'm sorry, Inspector. That must be difficult for you. Never you mind that. So, what do you want to know, then? Sorry? Tell the gentleman in black whatever he wants to know. I trust that won't be a problem, it says. Well, obviously it's not a problem. Go on, fire away. What do you want to know? Well, if you wouldn't mind, Inspector, we'd very much like to know the address of Mr. Natsume's lodgings. Ah, the little knife-wielding, mustached Japanese fellow. He lives in a right old hovel. It's just over there. Look. Right across the street. It's on the first floor of that house on the corner where there's that wreck of a bicycle's propped up. That is nearby indeed. If I remember rightly, the landlord is a Mr. John Garadeb. Right, well, if you see her again, you make sure to give her ladyship my regards, you hear? I mean it, you tell her that Gregson sends his very best wishes. Interesting the difference here. Now, is it that she pays him? And that Herlock is the one that makes him look bad? Or is there something more? Don't worry, Inspector, we will. Like, it's almost got that vibe of he really respects her in addition to her paying him. Goodbye for now, then, and long live her ladyship. Like, I'm almost getting, like, he has all her merch vibes, you know? Well, at least he told us what we wanted to know before he left. Yes, so then, shall we go see what we can find in Mr. Natsume's lodgings? Definitely. A British bicycle, look. Though the wheel is so mishappen, I'm sure it couldn't possibly be ridden anymore. Someone must have been doing some breakneck cycling. It seems bicycles have become extremely popular in London recently. There's even a movement to change women's dress to allow them to ride as well. The bicycle fad won't last. I don't see why anyone would want to ride something like that. Goodness, do you dislike bicycles? No, not at all. I mean, it's not that I dislike them exactly. It's just that any occupation that involves taking both your feet off firm ground seems reckless. If you've ever tried walking on stilts and falling into a river, I know you'd agree with me. We'll have to hire a bicycle sometime. You can sit behind me while I ride you around. It's a rather typical old brick building, isn't it? I'm sure it has a long and interesting history. Well, time certainly seems to have taken its toll on the place. It's crooked and sagging all over. In fact, it looks in decidedly worse shape than the other houses around here. According to Inspector Gregson, that's the house where Mr. Natsume has lodgings. Just across the road from where the incident took place, I see. Must be awful for Soseki-san getting caught up in something like this in a foreign land. So, I recall reading that one of the reasons that you'll see buildings with bricked up windows like that is that there was a period where there was sort of like the new tax and evade the new tax kind of warfare going on. It's similar to why you'll see old buildings, like old houses with big spacious rooms, without things like a closet or anything like that. Not even seeming like doorways. It was because there was a period where every door, everything that could be considered a door, would be taxed. So you wouldn't have doorways into rooms, and you wouldn't have a closet. Instead, you would have a piece of furniture that was like, that would serve all of that purpose. You wouldn't have a separate room for that kind of thing. And similar, there were taxes on the number of windows that a building would have. Like, that was a tax on the scale of your building. So I've seen locations where you can see that this was done with some of the old ones, but you'll also see old buildings like this where the windows are just bricked up entirely. Now, with some locations, that's like, the newer it is, that's not going to be the truth, but you'd have locations where they just bricked up the window. Oh, that's not a window. Look, there's a wall there. I mean, I agree on a couple fronts. One, stupid tax scheme, and two, who needs natural light? Interesting. He has a lot of military paraphernalia. May I help you? Yes, would this be the residence of Mr. John Garadeb? Indeed it would, sir. And who may I say is calling? My name is Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Mr. Naruhodo is representing Mr. Soseki Natsume. I believe he takes lodgings here? Well, that was an expression. Like, she seemed very pointedly pleased for a moment. Again, like, sudden, sharp enjoyment. One moment, please. I shall convey the message to Mr. Garadeb. Did you see that, Miss Susato? It was a real-life English maid. I know. As I understand it, anyone of standing in English society employs a number of household staff. That was the first time I've ever seen one in the flesh. Oh, this day keeps getting better. Certainly feels like we've really arrived now, doesn't it? We need only meet a butler and the experience will be complete. So draped over the cannon there is an apron. You can see that the rug is in total tatters under that, that little, what is it? What is it called? The little, the little partition thing there? Not sure I'd go that far, but I understand the sentiment. Thank you for waiting. Mr. Garadeb will see you now. This way. Very half-moon looking individual. Crescent moon, you know. Are those mortar shells? They're enormous. I hadn't noticed. What are they doing here? Those old things? Couple of little rounds I accidentally fired into the barracks during training, you know. Became a bit of colorful regiment folklore, that incident. You mean you deliberately hunted out the spent shells? Well, I wouldn't say deliberately exactly. They're only scrap iron after all, usually just thrown away, I believe. But you never know when things might come in useful, do you? Useful for what, exactly? Yes, well. Joan here did manage to knock one of the bally things on my foot the other day while she was dusting. Oh no. Hadn't shed a tear since 1869 before then, you know. Maybe reconsider throwing them away? Those are big shells. I mean, he would be in great pain if one of those did fall on him, given how solid they look. That's a full-sized cannon. What's it doing in here? And how did you get it in here? And also, where are those windows? Because the only bay window like that was boarded up. Just a moment. The camera is in the process of dying. There we go. There we go. Oh my, it's real. I thought it might be a replica. That old thing? That's a little more than a toy. Sorry? The army was selling it off when I retired, so I decided to give it a new home. Never know when the enemy might attack next. Jolly useful to have a cannon about the house. I mean, in the I need guns around to defend my household school of thought, there is a certain degree of intimidation that is available when you have a full-sized artillery piece to aim at a doorway. The idea of starting to ascend a stairway and encountering a cannon like that aimed at you with a person behind it just saying, "I think you should leave." That kind of warning really conveys the message that I'm willing to destroy the entirety of the building behind you in order to drive you from here. So you should consider your options carefully. Really? It isn't overkill? Be prepared, I always say. You never know what this twisted world is going to throw at you next, boy. You think there may be trouble brewing, Mr. Garrideb? Always is. Take Joan here. Never fails to have a clean apron in reserve. Dries them over the barrel, you see. They dry very well on the cannon there, Joan tells me. Which rather proves my point, I feel. It's been reduced to a drying rack. No wonder the huge cannon looks like it's hanging its head in shame. That enormous screen. Must have been put there deliberately, surely. It certainly seems like someone's trying to hide something from view. What could be behind it, I wonder? I'm going to have a very quick look. Just a little peek. Ahem. Maybe let's not, Miss Susato. I think the maid is going to head us off with a cup of tea. It looks like a Medal of Honor, and it's showcased on a very grand banner. Yes, it's displayed with some pride, I would say, although it bothers me that it's not straight. What, that old thing? Sorry? I should be glad to see the back of it, but the general would turn in his grave if I disposed of it. The wall's the best place for it, keeps the bally thing out of my way. So it's just been polished to shine by accident, I suppose. There appears to be an inscription on the medal itself. Look. Let me see. It says, "For distinguished participation." Sounds like the kind of honors even I could be in line for. Well, one doesn't like to blow one's own trumpet, but I was given that for my time in the army. Can't measure an officer by the number of medals to his name, of course, common knowledge in military circles. That uniform looks fairly ancient, doesn't it? It's clearly been well looked after, though. That old thing? Not much better than rags, really. Oh? Or that ceremonial garb at my retirement bash, you know. But I'm not one for dwelling on the past, me. Would have gladly thrown it out, but you know how it is. Anyway, it doesn't hurt to have the odd piece of memorabilia laying around, does it? Oh, I see. Perhaps we should leave the past in the past. Good day to you, John Garrideb, at your service. Pleased to meet you, sir. This is Rinosuke Naruhodo. He's a defense lawyer. Do excuse me not getting up. Took a shot to the knee a few years back in the Battle of Maiwand, don't you know? Used to be a defense attorney like you until I took a shot in the knee. Earned a medal for my pains, but had to withdraw from the service. Handed over the reins to the up-and-comings. So he's a retired soldier. Hell of a job getting up and down stairs now, I can tell you. Don't get out much, as you can imagine. Yeah, it's quite a climb up here to the second floor, isn't it? I was panting at the top of the stairs. You really must take more exercise, Mr. Naruhodo. Something that's carried over from Phoenix Wright is the idea that the lead is, despite not looking it, really out of shape. Do you think so? Well, Mr. Garrideb, no doubt you were very courageous to earn yourself a medal. Oh, it was nothing. The medal's just a folderol, really. Wouldn't like to offend the general, though, so I begrudgingly displayed it on the wall. Why don't you fetch it down, Joan? Let these good people see it properly. Joan, fetch the... Wow. There was, It's presented as an accident, but it really did have the vibe of a calculated attack, don't you think? Oh, dearie me, I do beg your pardon, sir. Jolly nearly took the skin off my hands. I shall be more careful, sir. So anyway, there you have it. Living the quiet life now. Yes, I see. Now then, I hear you want to know about the chap lodging downstairs, is that right? Yes, we would be very grateful if you could answer some questions for us. Only too pleased, naturally. Especially if it helps to keep the peace here in Blighty. We forged an alliance with the Empire of Japan recently, as I'm sure you're aware. So this case is very much in the public eye, as it were. Oh, is it? Even had some famous detective poking around, you know. In this old house, would you believe? Yes, Mr. Herlock Sholmes. Of course, it could have been. Didn't catch the chap's name. Not really my cup of tea, all that detective business. Oh, but you have a copy of Ranced magazine here, so... no. He kind of... His hairstyle kind of reminds me of, Guile from Street Fighter, but, you know, with the hair rotated 90 degrees a bit. Anyway, the chap's investigating the foreigner's room as we speak. So he's in Soseki's room. It's a bally nuisance is what it is. Whole neighborhood's twitching its curtains now. I don't like all this fuss. It's jolly unsettling. About Mr. Natsume, then, Mr. Garrideb. Please do tell us. Hello, Sammy. Got a light scratch across the back of my hand. Sherbet did his dive bomb maneuver again, really. 2 stages. One running across the bed to get a kick up to the cat tree. He likes to leap up. Let me switch over to it and show you. He'll get a running leap and, like, catch on to the sisal post. So he'll leap from the floor and, like, cling to the post right below where Mason is. But if there's a cat up there, he can't ascend. And he finds himself kind of stuck there. Now, he can climb back down. He doesn't really have any issue descending after he climbs up. Some cats do have problems climbing back down. But he just doesn't want to. So what he'll do is he will leap off of that. He'll kick off. So this last time he got me going both ways there. Is when he came running to get his jump up to the pole, he ran his claws over my hand. And then I got, I got kind of prickled across the face and arm when he landed on me. Didn't get all scratched up, thankfully, but it was a full-on cat to the face. Ah yes, the Japanese chap. Only been lodging here for a week. Oh, just 1 week? So he moved in very recently, then. I have 2 lodgers most of the time, one on the ground floor and one just below us. The first floor... Huh. I mean, there's the possibility that it's just meant to be a comedic thing, but again, this seems kind of calculated from Joan here. Do be careful. Oh, my goodness. I'm terribly sorry, sir. And every time we mentioned Natsume, she seemed suddenly very pleased. If you want to know my opinion, I thought he was a shady sort from the moment I set eyes on him. And there's some conveyance of force through the cheeks there. Oh, why? He seemed to have a most nervous disposition, always shaking and looking over his shoulder. The man had shady written across his sweat-soaked brow, if you ask me. I said to myself, Joan, that man is trouble. Sooner or later, he's going to do something untoward. What's the problem, Sammy, huh? I am rarely wrong about anything. You won't be calling this maid as a witness, that's for sure. Was there anything else that struck you as suspicious about the man at all? Yeah, right there. That's... She is recalling something that brings her pleasure. Yes, oh yes, indeed, there was. And she's dying to tell us. Did you notice anything else at all about your lodger, Mr. Natsume? Again? Oh my word, yes. The man was shadier than an orchard. I like that saying. Could you elaborate? I'll take the man's room. Absolutely stuffed full of books it is. More than anyone could ever read. And he never so much as passes the time of day with another living soul. I haven't seen a single visitor call. He just trots off to that old bookshop every single day and comes back at 5 to light the gas fire. And the funny little man is up long past the time everyone else in the house has gone to bed, too. Oh, I see. The gentleman on the ground floor goes to bed at around 9 each night. But I've never known that Japanese fellow to retire any earlier than 2 in the morning. Ah. Could you clarify something, I wonder? What, pray? How do you know so much about Mr. Natsume's routine? Oh! I understand that neither of the lodgers live on this floor of the house, is that correct? That's right, yes, they're both below us, on the first floor and street level. Then how is it that you know so much about the lives of your lodgers? The precise times that they come back in the evening, for example, even the times they go to bed. Just a moment. Huh. local happenings. The precise times that they come back in the evening, for example. Even the times they go to bed. I mean, is she... He's got that cane there. And he's already mentioned how she, accidentally knocked one of those mortar shells onto his foot. And the way that he holds the cup on his knee, she's constantly scalding that knee. Is she trying to keep him hobbled, as it were? What was that? Was the novel called Misery, where you had the person that was injured and bedridden, and the person nursing him ensured that he stayed injured and couldn't leave? Oh my goodness, I'm terribly sorry, sir. Stripping the flesh off of his knee and periodically crushing his foot so as to not let him escape. That's why he's always so nervous when they talk about the downstairs lodgers, is he doesn't want Joan getting any idea that he has interest in any land below the second floor. She might feel the need to take his other foot. Something doesn't add up here. It seems the incident took place at around 5 in the evening. Did you happen to look out the window at around that time? The window? Yes, we noticed that the window there overlooks the window over there looks out over Briar Road. The incident took place on the pavement, just on the far side of the street. The cake tray there is very tippy. Like every one of the layers except the bottom seems to be at a different angle. Yeah, if we look at all of it, everything on that right-hand shelf there is in disarray. I don't know what this mass of things right here is, but, But I had a button for that. But I don't. So, you can't see it. It's right behind me. But there is like a cracked teapot on the counter there. And then you can see cracked plates and a cup and a bunch of cracked jars, and the shelving is all wrecked there. And everything is all tilted and askew. So what happened with this building? Was there anyone suspicious loitering nearby? 5 o'clock is dinner time in the Garadeb household. So I'm afraid I don't remember seeing anything. How about you, Joan? No, sir, it would have been dusk outside already at that hour. With the fog as well, I should think it would have been quite impossible to see the other side of the road. I see. So it was 5 o'clock and foggy, is their assertion. They made a point to call out the routine of the Bobbies. How of an evening they would be traveling their 20-mile route and also lighting the gas lights. Did you notice anything else out of the ordinary then? Such as? Anything at all, even if it seems unrelated. Well, yes, was there something then? Well, it's nothing particularly significant, but at around that sort of time that... For the love of God, Joan, watch what you're doing. It is. She's trying to control his life. And she does so through inflicting maimings. You know, he was getting ahead of himself, so she dropped a mortar shell on his foot. He starts saying things that he shouldn't, so she scalds him with coffee. What other forms of physical abuse is visited upon this man? Oh, dearie me, what have I done? I'm awfully sorry, sir. Be more careful, woman. Of course, sir. If I may, Mr. Narrow Hollow. Yes? I have an exceedingly good memory, and as far as I remember, nothing of any significance took place here at that hour. Nothing at all. Oh, really? Mr. Garadeb? The way you were talking before, it sounded rather like there might have been. Well, as I was saying, it was just a trifling matter, really. Nothing of... She absolutely does. She controls this household through inflicting pain. In this particular circumstance, through scalding somebody repeatedly. Don't dash at all. What is the matter with you, woman? Begging your pardon, sir. Nothing happened. Yes, quite. Nothing happened. We sat down to a quiet, uneventful meal. Joan? Please don't burn me again. That's right, Mr. Garadeb. It absolutely is. What is the matter with these two? Sounds like something happened here in this room on the evening of the incident. But what? I wish I knew. Could you tell us which floor Mr. Natsume's room is on? Why, certainly. Just below us on the first floor. And Mr. Sholmes is investigating there, even as we speak? Yes. Told me Knotz's name had asked him to look into the matter, so I gave him the key. Mr. Natsume has engaged Mr. Sholmes' services? That's a blatant lie. Would it be alright if we also had a look around? In Mr. Natsume's room, I mean? I don't see why not. It's just down one flight of stairs. Who knows if we'll find anything that can help us with the case, but we have to try. Yeah, something definitely happened to shake this whole room. And there's evidence of it behind that screen. There's also, like, damage to the carpet around that screen. So you can see it down here. The carpet is all damaged there, and they said that it looked like that partition was put in place to obscure something. They can also see that everything from, like, the center of the room and to the right is askew in some fashion. All of the pictures on the wall, the metal, and then the further, like, at the table with the pastries and whatnot, some of them are on the table, but all the plates are askew. And then everything on that far wall is, like, cracked. We need all the clues we can lay our hands on, shall we? Yes, and while we're there, we can speak to Mr. Sholmes again. Perhaps he'll be able to tell us more. I wonder if there was a third mortar shell, and, like, it got knocked over and went off. You'd think there'd be more damage to the room, but, you know, comedy. Oh, interesting, interesting. There's a candle on the floor here. Hmm. Ooh, he got a kitty. Big old calico. And a lucky cat on the left. Look at this place. And smell it. It's so musty in here. I suppose it's the mountains of old books that are responsible for that. I don't think I've ever seen so many books in all my life. No, me neither. It's so dark in here, too. Is that the window over there? Well, it was the window. I think, yes, once upon a time. But for some reason, it's been closed up with bricks and mortar. So this is where Mr. Natsume lives. By the way, I haven't spotted Mr. Sholmes anywhere, have you? No, that's true, but according to what Mr. Garadib told us, the great detective should be around here somewhere, investigating. Aww. Cute. Oh my, what an adorable little cat. Perhaps he's looking after all the books while his master is away. I don't know about that. He disappeared into that pile of books as quick as a flash. It was a tricolor Miki, wasn't it? Do they even have that sort of cat here in Great Britain? Perhaps Mr. Natsume brought the little creature with him from Japan. It's made me feel homesick now. Already? We've only been in the country for 2 days. That desk seems to be wedged into a crevasse between the mountains of books on either side. Suppose Mr. Natsume would sit here and read while stroking his cat. But surrounded on all sides by these towering old tomes, surely he dreamt of books every night as well. Yes, he must have done, mustn't he? Oh, what's this? It's a receipt from a second-hand bookshop. Your Books. Yes, Mr. Natsume's name is on it. Look, and the date of the purchase. 2 days ago at 4:45 p.m. That's the day of the incident. That's just a short while before he was embroiled in the terrible attack. He must have been on his way back from buying some old books. All those books stacked up there, they almost reach the ceiling. They're all works of English literature, and they all smell so musty. With this volume of books to hand, you'd never be short of reading material, would you? No, what a dreamy idea. A bad dream, maybe, for me at least. Mind you, I don't imagine the book that's at the bottom of the pile will ever be read again. So reading reading it is an experience that comes but once in a lifetime, just as the tea ceremony teaches us. I certainly didn't expect the conversation to turn down the path of tea ceremony philosophy. I mean, that's an interesting thought, you know? Oh, look, it's a beckoning cat from home. Bit big and bulky, isn't it? Surely Mr. Natsume didn't bring that Maneki Neko all the way from Japan with him. I hardly think you're in a position to comment, Mr. Naruhodo. Recall seeing that there was a shrine dedicated to those statues. That people and like everything from the more like ornate like statue variety, but also some of like the kitschy like little plastic ones, and they just had this giant array of them. Are you forgetting the enormous Dharma doll that you brought in your luggage? Well, it can be dangerous traveling abroad. I wanted a lucky charm. Well, I imagine Mr. Natsume wanted the same, and this cat is sure to beckon good luck to him. It's not doing a very good job so far, is it? You mustn't say such things. I didn't say a word. Why are my eyes such a giveaway? This appears to be some sort of meter on the wall here. It looks very robust. Wonder what it's for. There's a slot for inserting coins here, too. I believe that is a gas meter, Mr. Naruhodo. A gas meter? It seems there is piped gas in this district, which consumers pay for by putting coins in the meter. Huh. Never heard of that. Not the idea that there would be a gas meter measuring like how much was consumed, but the idea that it was coin operated. So if we were to put a coin in the slot, that would be enough gas to use the lights in the gas fire for the whole night. So if you were too poor to have a coin, you'd have to spend the nights in the dark and freezing cold? That's right, as would a rich man who only carried crisp white notes. London is a scary place. So you have to expect that's going to come up in some way. Because you have the impression that since it's behind the wall of books, and similar, that he's not necessarily using the gas lights much. Or the heat. We've got the big blanket, the what is definitely not like the gas stove under the kettle, a candle, a candle perched on top of another object in the middle of a room full of old books, dusty old books. Did you even call this a window? I think so. It was a window at one time, after all. Although all that remains is a frame around some bricks now. So really, it's just a wall then, isn't it? Why would anyone deliberately brick it up like that? I'm afraid I have no idea. Ah, perhaps Mr. Natsume painted the brick design on it in a fit of whimsy. That's alarmingly feasible. Whatever the reason, the lack of ventilation in here makes the place very oppressive. It does. I imagine being cooped up in a room like this would be extremely trying. Oh, there he is. Ah, look, Mr. Naruhodo. Where did he appear from? He seems to be engrossed in the pages of an old book. I hope he doesn't mind if we disturb him. Hello, Mr. Sholmes. Ah, you two. Good day. Now let me see. Where was it that we met? Oh, Mr. Sholmes, we were together on the SS Burya. Yes, of course, the Burya. Let me see. What happened on that voyage? It was Kazuma Asogi. He died. Tragically. But you were a great help to us. Indirectly. Ah, yes, but of course, the case of Mr. Asogi. It was the one with the snake, wasn't it? Oh, well, you seem to remember something of it, at least. What an honor to be remembered vaguely by the great Herlock Sholmes. This is Mr. No, my dear madam, hold your tongue. I pride myself on my superior powers of recollection. Your names are safely recorded in my brain attic. Isn't it like Mind Palace is the what would it be called? The visualization technique for memorization? Miss Naruhodo and Mr. Susato. Try the other way around, Mr. Sholmes. I lose the first round. In truth, I had hoped to invite you both to my Baker Street suite the day we arrived in London. But some Scotland Yarders ambushed me at the railway station and whisked me away to the crime scene. It was an entirely trivial case, of course. I solved the matter in no more than 30 minutes. So they apprehended Soseki in that short of an amount of time? I'm afraid the pursuance of a new case has dulled my recollection of my past involvements a little. A little? It is a mistake to think that one's brain attic has elastic walls and can distend to any extent. I do my best to forget useless facts, lest they should elbow out the useful ones. Yes, those are my own words of inimitable wisdom, from an adventure entitled A Study in Scarlet. Please, there's no need to quote yourself. I don't always remember my pearls of wisdom, but fortunately my associate pens them beautifully. He means Iris, I suppose. Mr. Sholmes, we have some extremely important questions to ask about the trivial case you just mentioned. Goodness, what an earnest expression. My dear madam, I should be only too pleased. And this murky room is an apt place to discuss the murky case. We know this to be the lodgings of a Japanese foreign student by the name of Soseki Natsume. It seems that you assisted in his arrest, Mr. Sholmes, for the stabbing of a young woman outside here on Briar Road. Natsume, yes, I believe it was a name rather along those lines. But Mr. Natsume denies it. Was it really justifiable to arrest him on so little? I'm sorry, Miss Susato, but I have not the slightest idea what you mean. Huh? I can't believe he was looking Susato squarely in the eye while feigning ignorance. I assure you, I am not merely feigning ignorance. It would appear as if the pair of you are under some misapprehension. Oh? How? I assure you that I have no recollection of accusing your stooped compatriot of the crime. But that doesn't make sense. The good detective of Scotland Yard made the following request of me, and I quote verbatim. We need you to ascertain the identity and whereabouts of a man seen fleeing the crime scene. Ah, a man seen fleeing. There were a number of books scattered on the pavement at the scene. Wow, he actually seems to have actually done something this time. From the book plates, I was quickly able to determine the bookshop from which they had been purchased. On speaking with the proprietor, I was immediately led to this address. Elementary, wouldn't you say? I believe there is a receipt around here somewhere from the establishment in question. So you don't think Mr. Natsume is the culprit, then? That I could not tell you. But it was aggravating my faculties, hence why I returned here. However, this place is such a trove of fascinating books, I found myself quite lost in bibliophily. Do not be deceived into believing that I am a man of leisure. No, no, no. Oh dear. Ah, tell me, have you encountered the landlord of these lodgings? Yes, Mr. Garadeb, a retired military man. It was the first time I've ever met a soldier from the great British institution that is the services. It was the first time I've ever met a maid from the great British institution that is service. Laugh. I didn't think it was that funny. I do apologize. As you may well be aware, many households in London employ a maid. Yes, I read as much in my Great Britain primer. And so conversely, whether or not a household implies a maid has come to betoken the social standing of those dwelling therein. Betoken their social standing? Sorry? Put simply, my dear fellow, those who employ at least a single maid are considered middle class. Those who do not are beneath that. In the upper echelons of society, of course, households employ enough staff to constitute a large family. Goodness, how extraordinary. As you can appreciate, for those on the precarious boundary between the middle and lower classes, being able to afford just one maid is of the first importance. I had no idea. It is precisely for that reason that I find great stimulation in the situation upstairs. Specifically in the retired Army veteran, Mr. John Garadeb. Oh? Affable as he is, the fellow is hiding something. Whether or not it imposes on the circumstances of this case, I am as yet unable to ascertain. I am thoroughly lost on what he means to say. This room is thoroughly suffocating for the soul, my dear fellow. I assure you, any man whose lot is to dwell in a place such as this will stab somebody sooner or later. Oh, dear. Like, oh, wow, so the guy who lives here was accused of murder? Yeah, I can see why he might do that. Mr. Natsume has stabbed no one. Ah, but sooner or later, as I said. Ah, even if he didn't, he was gonna. Matter of time. I don't believe that's the issue here. About this dark little room, Mr. Sholmes. Why is there no longer a window? Do you have any idea? No window? I mean, I can clearly see that there is a window of sorts. But it's been completely blocked with bricks. Ah, I see. The answer to that question is quite simple. Window tax. Ah, see, I was right. Window tax? What is that? Surely not a tax on windows. Precisely that. Oh my goodness. Until relatively recently, a tax was levied on households in this country by the number of their windows. Those of lesser means, having inherited a sizable and costly family home perhaps, rapidly closed windows up. This is when somebody who thinks they're clever is in a position of power and is like, oh, well, I know how we'll solve this problem. And they fail to see the willingness to take action and ingenuity of the people they're attempting to inflict it upon. While the rich opened up windows here, there, and everywhere, in an effort to curry favor with those in power by furnishing them with large sums of tax money. How awful and unjust, forcing people to live in rooms devoid of light. Indeed, disease was rife as a result. So, some 40 years ago, or thereabouts, the window tax was abolished. But its legacy remains, as you can see, in squalid lodgings such as these, for example. I suppose Mr. Natsume's stipend for living here in London isn't very generous, perhaps. It would appear so. I've done a little digging, and discovered that these lodgings were offered at an extraordinarily low price. I mean, they've effectively got him, like, it looks like they've got him living in the sewer, in the cellar. The sewer. Because the room is so awful, I should think. Apparently, Mr. Natsume only moved in here about 1 week ago. Yes, that's correct. However, I don't believe the low rent is explained by the shabby nature of the accommodation. Oh? Still, that is of little relevance here. A matter not worthy of further attention. A matter almost certainly worthy of further attention because you have explicitly mentioned that it isn't. Are you sure? I'm curious now. Well, I believe I've told you all I can now. Thank you, Mr. Sholmes. Ah, yes, Mr. Naruhodo. Was it not your intention to become a practitioner of law? You remembered that, did you? Will you perhaps be offering your services in this very matter, I wonder? And to the occupant of this room, Mr. Natsume, was it? I'm not sure. Not sure? On what grounds? Well, I actually defended someone in court here only yesterday. Really? Well then, I congratulate you, sir, on an ambition realized. And so promptly, too. Wrong button. The thing is, it's really made me question things. Am I right in to believe in my clients? To trust in their innocence? This is pretty much the base theme of the Phoenix Wright games, is the I believe in you. Ah, yes, trust. Mr. Sholmes. Mr. Natsume didn't do it, did he? Laugh. My dear fellow, I haven't the first idea. Oh, but I thought that's why you were here. Didn't you come back to investigate? Ah, yes, that was indeed my initial intention. But there are simply too many fascinating books here. I couldn't possibly ignore them. Yes, that's what I intended to do, but then I got very distracted. Nevertheless, there are two facts that I can state quite unequivocally. quite unequivocally. The man who fled the scene of the crime 2 days ago was the Japanese occupant of this room, and there are witnesses who swear to having seen the same man commit the crime. That is all I can say. Oh, and one more thing. What is it, Mr. Sholmes? Tell us. I cannot say with any certainty whether or not it is of relevance to this case, but I am quite sure that the retired army man who owns this property is hiding something. Mr. Garadeb is? Mr. Sholmes said as much before, actually, didn't he? Anyway, at present, that is really all that plays on my mind in relation to this case. Mr. Naruhodo, as yet our investigations have uncovered nothing that can help establish Mr. Natsume's innocence. No, you're right. Perhaps it is time we probed a little deeper into Mr. Garadeb's secret. Just remember, I cannot be sure whether the landlord's secret will prove to be of relevance or not. But I wish you every success, of course, Mr. Naruhodo. A busy man indeed. He's gone back to his book in the corner of the room. Oh, clearly plot flag raised. Ah, you pair again. Tell me, was the detective chap, I forgot his name, still hard at work down there? Mr. Herlock Sholmes? Ah, yes, rings a vague bell. All that detective business isn't really my thing, I'm afraid. Well, Mr. Sholmes is in his element down there. Golly Jud. Jolly good show. Another cup of tea, if you please, Joan? Now then, why don't you tell me what... For the umpteenth time, woman, will you watch what you're ballywell doing? I shall be serving dinner shortly, sir. Ah, yes, of course. Frightfully rude of me, but I'm afraid I shall have to ask you to take your leave, if you'd be so kind. Really is. Shut your mouth, old man, or I will burn you again. Oh, yes, of course. We are deeply grateful for all your assistance. Not at all, not at all. Don't get much chance to talk with young foreigners like yourselves. It's been a pleasure. I just thought of that for a moment. It's their appearances. He has the, like, crescent moon, very angular. She is very curved, but additionally, if you consider it that she has an almost like round head, the maid's, I can't remember what it's called, but the hat, the little ruffles around the hat, you could consider this like a sun motif. So like a sun and moon kind of vibe. Is motif the word? According to Mr. Sholmes, Mr. Garadeb is hiding something. And since no other avenues of investigation seem open to us at the moment, perhaps we should do some digging. This window looks out over Briar Road, where the young woman was attacked. Yes, I can make out the policeman on the far side of the road investigating the crime scene. The glass is rather murky, isn't it? You can't see very clearly. Does this thing open at all, I wonder? Uh-oh. Connection is all over the place today. It does seem to be weather related. Do not underestimate the bitterness of the London winter. Sorry? As soon as you open that window, the tea will freeze in the pot. Dang. If it's going to freeze the hot tea in the pot, it's going to kill everyone in the room. No Londoner would go opening windows at dusk in the middle of winter, I assure you. Seems very unlikely that these two would have seen anything of the incident, then. Well, there he is again. I do love how they have the look away, then look back, and there he is kind of gimmick. Oh, look. What a wonderful collection of cakes lined up on the gleaming silver cake stand. Lined up? It looks more like someone has half demolished them to me. Afternoon tea is a time of indulgence, you know. It is quite the English way. It is Mr. Garrideb's custom to take 2 cakes with his tea. Sounds delightful. Oh, wait a minute, though. There are at least 10 cakes on this cake stand. Well, naturally, it would never do to waste the leftovers. So whatever Mr. Garrideb doesn't eat, I say to myself, Joan, you shall have to tidy up. How magnanimous of you. The old candle holder looks a little out of place here. See, one of the candles is missing, too. The rightmost candle, you can just see the spike. Let's see, there. Right by my right ear there. Yeah, you're right. It's clearly supposed to be gold, but it's almost completely black for some reason. Okay. So that candle holder was somewhere else. And it's been blackened, so I wonder. That old thing, yes. Just a cheap piece of ironmongery. Gimcrack, really. Oh. Used it when I was studying, don't you know, for my commission. I know it's old, hardly worth hanging on to, really. But, well, it still has its uses sometimes. Of course. Does everything in this room have some elaborate story behind it? They're memories, Mr. Naruhodo, memories. Look at this crockery on display here. It's rather unusual, isn't it? My, a genuine London dresser. Isn't it delightful? Although the shelves seem to be broken, and the crockery is... oh dear, it's in pieces. It really is. The word cracked wouldn't do that chinaware justice. I wonder. Perhaps the cannon was fired at it. Yeah, probably something like that, but let's not delve too deeply here. What's he doing over there? Mr. Sholmes? Aha, we meet again, my dear fellows. Good gracious, when did you sneak in here? Sherlock Sholmes, sir, at your service. Whatever were you doing over by the window? I'm given to watching the evening sky as the sun sets, madam. Yet sadly, cheerful as the room downstairs undoubtedly is, it lacks an aperture for such observation. So I took the liberty of borrowing a small corner of space by the window up here. Well, keeping an eye to one's windows at dusk is the prudent thing to do in London, I'm gathering. So, and one other thing, Mr. Naruhodo. Oh, me? I thought perhaps you might be in need of a certain great detective's great mind. Wait, he's not talking about... Is he... I didn't expect to be going through that again so soon. Do you mean Mr. Sholmes? There is a mighty secret in this modest room. My eyes see even the most trivial of trifles. I take it you're prepared, Mr. Naruhodo? I think so. There's just enough for one of my greatly admired... there is just time enough for one of my greatly admired great deductions. Let us conclude the matter before dark. Mr. Garrideb, though it would seem you are a military man of considerably distinguished service, your standing as a landlord is most certainly not what one might call first-rate. I'm afraid, sir, that it is all too clear to me. There are two conclusions I have been able to draw by careful observation of your living arrangements. I beg your pardon? The first is that even as we speak, you are concealing the presence of a ferocious beast in your care. Eh? And the second is as a result of that beast's violent rampage, you have lost something very dear to you. Mr. Naruhodo, look. The old man's broken out in a cold sweat. Unbelievably, it seems Mr. Sholmes' conclusions are both spot on. How could you possibly? How could I possibly know, you mean to inquire? The answer couldn't be simpler, sir. For in the dense jungle of logic and reasoning, I am the king of beasts. Gasp. And I know only too well that wild beasts are not easily tamed. So, shall we begin? Once again, Herlock Sholmes is proud to present his Logic and Reasoning Spectacular. Okay, let's see how wildly wrong he is this time. Nature of the beast. I'm guessing it's the cat. It certainly shouldn't take a great detective to see. That fearsome beast has been on a rampage of late within these four walls. Thus we are faced with the question, what form might this beast take? For a man with a military breeding, your eyes are uncommonly candid. Your furtive glance, Mr. Garrideb, led us directly to the answer. The true nature of the beast that has run rampant here is revealed by that lion statue. Yes, though an army man, you appear unimposing at best. A fact that is fueled by your admiration for the mighty lion, the king of beasts. What is this piffle, I ask you? In the end, your admiration became so great, in fact, that you had a living, breathing specimen shipped from India, which you tried to keep in this very house. Are there lions in the India region? Like that general area? I mean, if it were tigers, I could see that. Thought there were tigers in that area. I could be wrong on both counts. Living with such a wild beast proved more difficult than you had imagined. The chilling traces of a wild rampage are still very much in evidence. Well. Yet as we look around, the beast in question fails to present itself. Where could this angry creature have disappeared to? Madam? Me? I pray you do not consider me unchivalrous, but it is plain to me with one glance in your direction. It is? Your dress pocket gives us a handsome clue as to the beast's current whereabouts. For protruding from it is a handbill advertising a circus show. Yes, you sought to dispose of this terrifying lion, Mr. Garridip. At Batty's Circus, a traveling show currently sojourning in the nearby park. I have observed the tents. You sold the savage lion, sir, to the circus troupe. I most certainly did not. I believe I have made my point. The fearsome beast which ran amok in this room was an Indian lion. And a simple visit to the circus now will reveal the lion prancing jubilantly through a ring of fire. Asiatic lion. The aftermath. Now, Mr. Garridip, it is plainly clear that you still have deep feelings for this formidable beast. Indeed, in that blithe pose, the distress this loss has caused you is veritably tangible. Your head weighs heavy on your shoulders, the pain you feel being revealed by that supporting arm. Amid fits of tears, you let your beloved beast go. The strain of losing something so dear to you is clearly visible in your visage. Nonsense, man, I simply... But what, we must now ask ourselves, is the true cause of this pain? We need only follow the direction of your gaze to find the answer. It's the pile of bills that has given rise to the pain you suffer. Every envelope contains another demand for payment. Ah. For cartloads of meat, potatoes, wheat, and tea. Indeed, feeding your beloved has had a devastating impact on the financial circumstances of your household. And so you had no choice but to let it go. Yes, well, Now, in a final fit of rage, the ferocious beast carried out one last unimaginable attack. Unimaginable? The aftermath of which can clearly be seen by observing the carpet over there. Yeah, that is a scorch mark. A very expensive woolen carpet, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, dearie me. What could have caused such a destructive outburst? She glances at Mr. Garridip there. Ah. This time, madam, I'm afraid it is you who has inadvertently revealed the truth to me. Your wandering eye has settled upon the answer very neatly indeed. Yes, to explain the dire state of the carpet, we need only look at the Tower of Cakes. There is no creature more dangerous on this earth than a beast with an unsatiated appetite. Was it or was it not once said by a certain noblewoman, if they have no bread, let them eat cake? Food is at the heart of all tragedy, in fact. Whatever do you mean? Having tired of the taste of cake, the beast began to stalk its next prey. I'm sure I need not spell out the nature of its final act of destruction carried out by the beast. There's only one logical conclusion. Worked into a frenzy by hunger, the lion attacked and ate the carpet. The teeth marks in the carpet are a perfect match with those of a lion I once saw in India. Oh, dear, dear, dear. Thus concludes Herlock Sholmes' great deduction of this beastly puzzle. What's the matter with you, Joan? You're pouring scalding hot tea all over me. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Garadeb. I'm afraid I didn't notice. My deductions can be startlingly sharp. It stands to reason that your cup runneth over. Indeed, my revelations can make people spill tears at times, too. Oh. Mr. Sholmes, sorry to butt in again, but could I make an observation? Why, certainly, Mr. Naruhodo. What is it again? Well, your deductions just now. Do you really think a lion could have fit inside a room of this size? Indeed, it is the only explanation for the facts. A terrifying truth all too often lies beyond the realms of common sense. But wouldn't it be an idea to consider what lies inside the realm of common sense as well? No! We keep our thoughts purely in the supernatural in this household. But if an uncaged lion had run amok in this very room, surely Mr. Garadeb and his maid would have been hurt or worse. That's where you are stuck. Ah, that's where you're stuck. No doubt the former military man held his own against the beast, using that large cannon. I thought you said that they sold the lion to the circus. What about the food? Meat and potatoes are one thing. But I don't believe I've ever heard of a lion that drinks tea. My dear Miss Susato, it occurs to me that with some regularity, that irrespective of race and breeding, whenever someone lands on Great British soil, they are infused with a highly appropriate taste for afternoon tea. Oh, what a glorious notion! It's something in the air. Gets in your brain. Makes you want tea. Well then, Mr. Naruhodo, it's your turn to shine again. I had a feeling that was coming. A slight massage, that's all Mr. Sholmes' deductions need. You can do it. Excellent. I've been waiting for my trusty partner in deduction to step forward, Mr. Naruhodo. We don't even know yet whether or not this is going to help with Mr. Natsume's case. Still, uncovering the truth is always worthwhile, whatever the motivation. At least, that's what I want to believe. Let us start again. From the beginning. Of Sherlock Holmes, logic and reasoning spectacular. Course correction. Hold it, Mr. Sholmes. Certainly shouldn't take a great detective to see that a fearsome beast has been on the rampage of late within these four walls. So we are faced with the question, what form might this beast take? And with a military breeding, your eyes are uncommonly candid. Your furtive glance, Mr. Garadeb, leads us directly to the answer. The truth of the nature of the beast that has run rampant here is revealed to be the lion statue. I really didn't see the lion thing coming. No, but you observed Mr. Garadeb's reaction. It rather seems as though some beast did indeed run amok in here. Something with a very fierce nature. But it couldn't have been a lion transported from India. So what was it then? You must follow his gaze. It's the cat. Gotta be the cat. Yeah. Oh, no, it's like a... Is that like a baby? I mean, it seems like it's a... Like an infant? What is this photograph? Appears to be from Mr. Garadeb's wedding. I mean, she'd be very teeny tiny. He looks very happy, doesn't he? He does, but you can't make out his bride. No, how unfortunate. Something must have struck the glass directly over the woman's face. I wonder what happened. Probably best not to delve too deeply here. There are shells for the cannon. Those are shells for the cannon, aren't they? What a strange place to keep them. Imagine they have some significance to Mr. Garadeb from his time in the army. But of course, he mentioned a battle to us before, didn't he? Remember, he said that he'd been shot in the knee? Perhaps it was with one of these. It was one of these that hit him. Yeah, those are... That whole leg is prosthetic, you know? Around that size it hit his knee, there'd be nothing left of it, or Mr. Garadeb for that matter. Mr. Sholmes has a Persian slipper, and this man has spent shells. Perhaps it's customary in Britain to display, well, rubbish on the mantelpiece. Something struck the glass. The woman's plump form. I think powerful would be kinder than plump. Was she... Is the implication that it's a married couple there? Certainly looks that. There's a lot of horsepower there. Someone you'd want to upset, that's for sure. You notice her wedding ring? It's very large, isn't it? It's an unusual design. Some sort of embellished sunflower.
Take that!
Nope. Butter wouldn't melt accomplice. The cannon. The war is good for nothing. It brings only destruction. Something we must all strive to understand. That deduction was wanting in every way. Yes, but I was wanting you to hear it. I am quite proud of it. I myself wanting never to have heard it. I'm quite pained by it, in fact. Oh, sorry. know with certainty is that the destructive creature was at work in this room, and he inadvertently looked in the direction of something that gives its identity away. Alright, we're gonna try Newlywed Bride there.
Take that!
The true nature of the beast that has run rampant here is revealed by that Newlywed Bride. Precisely, Mr. Naruhodo. No other explanation could possibly fit. Yes, this frame print pictures your wife, Mr. Gyarados. And while we lament the fact that her face is obscured, we can still make out her mighty arms and note the considerable horsepower they must contain. Maybe it's just a weird angle. Because if we assume that that is her in that picture, then at least the head is about the right size. Surely any woman of such powerful constitution would be honored to be described as a beast. Honored might be stretching a point. Too late. The fact remains that the beast, which so clearly savaged this room, was your wife, Mr. Gyarados. Oh, did you see the handprint on his face? The right side of his face has a big ol' handprint on it. Ah. The real beast that rampaged through this house was domestic abuse. The chilling traces of a wild rampage are still very much in evidence. Well. Yet, as we look around, the beast in question fails to present itself. Where could this angry creature have disappeared to, madam? Me? I pray you do not consider me unchivalrous, but it is plain to me that with one glance in your direction... It's plain to me with one glance in your direction. It is? Your dress pocket gives us a handsome clue as to the beast's current whereabouts. Or a fragile, defenseless woman is beside herself. Well, I don't know about fragile. Oh, dear. Anyway, Mr. Sholmes is quite right. There's no sign of Mrs. Gyarados anywhere. It seems we may have a clue as to her whereabouts. A clue that this maid is trying to hide. Wonder where his wife could be. Yeah, sun motif. You have the face on the sun there, and he has the crescent moon look to him. She's wearing a very large ring. Yes, a sunflower design with some rather nice embellishments. It's on the ring finger of her left hand, which means it's surely a wedding ring. Looks like it's on there for life, too. I can't imagine it would slide off a finger of that size. Jeez. Something to think about, Mr. Naruhodo, not to say. Do you know, Mr. Gyarados' wife in the photograph had a ring very much like this one. It was a very large sunflower design as well. Really? You have a great memory for these things. Large sunflower wedding ring. It's quite a coincidence that they have the same ring, isn't it?
Take that!
Your wedding ring gives us a handsome clue. as to the beast's current whereabouts. Gasp. Indeed it does. That flowery band gleaming on your finger gives you away. He did call that out, is that if you want to if you want people to see you as at least middle class, then you need to have at least one maid, or essentially you have to have at least one servant in the household. She is posing as a maid. And it certainly casts a different appearance on their dynamic. For it is identical to the one shown on the hand of Mr. Garredeb's bride in this photographic print. In other words, you are no ordinary household maid. No. You are Mr. Garredeb's lucky bride. You are Miss Garredeb herself. Oh my word. Well, jolly fine detecting, sir. As you rightly surmised, this is my wife. Yes, my Joan. Rather let herself go, as you might say, but she has belly... Well, he had that one coming. It would appear that you don't live in the most comfortable of circumstances. After all, you are a retired army man, yet you are in the business of renting out rooms. I would assume, therefore, you have insufficient means to employ a maid. Would that be correct? Not right, I tell you. I was 2nd Lieutenant of the 3rd Regiment. A man has his pride, don't you know? By golly, it's a sorry thing when a chap can't even afford to have a single maid in his employ. Yes, here in London, one is rather judged. A household cannot be considered worthy of society if it employs no staff at all. Though in my considered opinion, such concerns about appearances are a folly. You mean Mr. Garredeb has his wife work as his maid? Precisely. Am I right, Mr. Garredeb? Only in company, obviously, but listen here. This must remain a secret. Tip-top secret, please. A raging wife. Now, Mr. Garredeb, it is plainly clear that you still have deep feelings for this formidable beast. Yeah, he's not resting his head on his hand in sadness. He's holding his hand against the slap mark. Indeed, in that blithe pose, the distress this loss has caused you is veritably tangible. Your head weighs heavy on your shoulders, the pain you feel being revealed by that supporting arm. Mr. Sholmes is quite something. He's still calling Mr. Garredeb's wife a beast. Yes, as a woman that feels rather uncomfortable. But Mr. Garredeb is standing beside her husband as we speak. In other words, he hasn't lost his beloved at all, has he? How true. So perhaps that supporting arm that seems to be propping up his head has some other significance. According to Mr. Sholmes, Mr. Garredeb's pain is tangible, though. What could that pose of his really signify? Man, that is a full open palm swing there. Like...
Take that!
Look at that. that had been a closed fist, then he would not be seeing out of that eye. I mean, I know that they were playing it up for comedic effect, but the powerful build commentary about her rings a bit true. Oh man, one of the fingers was right across his eye too. The mark is even over his brows, man. He's lucky to be alive. And of course, the deliverer of that impressive mark on your cheek that refuses to fade was you, Madame Joan Garrideb. Well, yes. You have been desperate to hide the slap mark on your cheek, sir. Oh, the blazes. How did you work that out, man? Nothing escapes the notice of one trained in the arts of observation, my dear fellow. That's why you haven't looked directly at us even once. You keep your other side from view. Well, Now, let us proceed to the next conundrum. Why were you subjected to such a violent slap? In other words, we must ask ourselves what caused Madame Garrideb to fly into a rage. You can only follow the direction of your gaze to find the answer. Pile of bills. Which is incorrect. Bills for lion fodder, but we've established that the lion never existed. It only means that the thing which can only mean that the thing responsible for gobbling up all that food was Mr. Garrideb's wife. Mr. Naruhodo, she's a person, not a thing. Yes, well, she's also a person who gave her husband a mighty slap round the face. One so hard that it left a perfect hand mark, in fact. Yes, why would a woman want to hit her husband with such force, I wonder? I'd love to know the answer to that question. Ah. Someone must be reading this book at the moment. There's a bookmark here, too. Mr. Garrideb is clearly an avid reader. Wait a minute. I don't think this is a bookmark. Oh no, no it isn't. It's a note written in a woman's hand. Oh James, I love you. Yours, Mary. Oh, very straightforward little note there. And look, next to the signature here. Lip marks, made with lipstick. What a passionate and romantic gesture. Get any ideas, Susato? Here, I'm sorry. This bookmark is actually a love note then, huh?
Take that!
It is this love note that has given rise to the pain you suffer. Oh, James, I love you. Yours, Mary. Passionate indeed. Oh, she is displeased. Joan gonna kill a man. Perhaps the sender of this note, a certain Miss Mary, is the fly in the ointment here? Oh, man! Such violence! I don't know the Pally woman. You don't know her. That note wasn't written to me. It's just in the book. I don't know how it got there. It was just in there, you say? That's right. It does explain the repeated scaldings that she's inflicted, too. A likely story. Now listen here, Joan, old thing. I explained at the time. I bought the book at that second-hand place, and that note must have already been in there. So the previous owner of the book was using the note as a bookmark, you mean? That's right. That's what I've been saying. A likely story. Oh. He's got a permanent slap mark on his face, and he's going to have third-degree burns down his legs. For heaven's sakes, woman, look at the name. It's written to James. My name, in case you've forgotten, is John. She's having none of it. Are you questioning my name now? Smack. If she gets any angrier, she's going to use that ring as a knuckle duster. Jeez. And there we have it. Arouse the suspicions of the female heart, and you unleash a beast with a most fearsome bite. Now, in a final fit of rage, the ferocious beast carried out one last unimaginable attack. Unimaginable? The aftermath of which can clearly be seen by observing the carpet over there. A very expensive woolen carpet, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, dearie me. Could have caused such a destructive outburst. Ah. This time, madam, I'm afraid it is you who has inadvertently revealed the truth to me. Your wandering eye has settled upon the answer very neatly indeed. Explain the dire state of the carpet. We need only look at the Tower of Cakes. Surely Mrs. Garadeb didn't eat the carpet. Oh, of course not. There doesn't seem to be any doubt that the state of disarray at this table state of disarray that this room is in is a result of her wild temper. No, that's true. So this is the last part of Mr. Sholm's deduction that we need to fix. We need only follow Mrs. Garadeb's gaze, and that will tell us the real answer. All right, let's see what we can see. Yes. This looks like a very old candlestick, doesn't it? The base looks too small. Surely it's very unstable. Looks to me like even the slightest knot could make it topple over. Dear, that would be dangerous. Wait, take a closer look at this. There's one candle missing. I didn't notice that before. Why is that, I wonder? Why is one candle of the three missing from its holder? The carpet here has been ripped to shreds. And according to Mr. Sholm's deduction, the tears match that made by an Indian lion's teeth exactly. Oh, look here. What is it? If you look very closely at the edge, you can see scorch marks. Oh, so you can. In that case, perhaps the carpet wasn't eaten in the normal sense at all. Let's rethink that with this in mind. Yes, to explain the dire state of the carpet, we need only look at the candlestick. Most illuminating, my dear fellow, and of course the only possible way out of this logical labyrinth. The remnants of a ferocious attack in which the carpet was devoured are clearly visible. Indeed they are. The scorch marks at the edge clearly give the truth away. Scorch marks? It would appear that this room was the scene of a little marital altercation. Is the implication that she decked him so hard that he collided with the shelving behind him and toppled the candlestick? I think that's what went down. Mrs. Garrideb's mighty arm muscles left an impression not only on her husband's face, but on the entire room. The force of her strike caused a candle to fall from the holder. And in seconds, the carpet was alight and the whole corner of the room's in flame. Yes, For the most ferocious beast in this world is neither a violent lion nor a vengeful woman, but fire. And in this room, that ferocious beast bared its claws and ran amok. Eloquently put, my dear fellow. So you see, there is but one conclusion here. After the sparks of marital discord flew, this room was the scene of a fire. Mr. Sholmes, sir, I salute you. That's amazing. One of the best parts of the new game is that little thing. It's these dashed long winters, you know. Nothing to do but read in front of the fire. Luckily, there's a jolly good second-hand bookshop just around the corner. Buy all my old novels there. And in the pages of one particular novel, you discovered some rather illicit material. For which your wife admonished you harshly, it seems. Yeah. He fell. Don't know about admonished. Demolished might be rather closer to the mark. He's gonna burn him with coffee again. And beast is most certainly an app. Yeah, there we go. Once again, you had that one coming. Here we go again. And the carpet? Was that destroyed by fire when a candle fell on the floor? Afraid to say it was. Happened in the blink of an eye, you know. The whole place filled with smoke. Couldn't see a bally thing. Might be why the windows are all smudged. I was caught between the old stick's rage and the raging flames. You paint a torrid picture, sir. One that would have been most entertaining. That's sympathy for you. Didn't take long for the fire to spread, of course. The bally furniture started to go up as well. We've had to hide the mess behind that screen for the time being. Over there, Mr. Garrideb? We have nothing more to hide now, if you'll allow me. And all my favorite old novels, in that case. As soon as the fire got a hold of them, that was it. Whoosh, up in smoke. Gosh. Then the wife started hurling things at me. What a terrible sight it must have been. There I was, back up against the window, under heavy enemy fire. Incendiary books incoming 10 to the dozen. Worst of it is, I lost my favorite book called The Lion's Pride. The Lion's Pride? Ah, yes, your notorious love of big cats coming through again. I assure you, the title didn't influence my choice in the slightest. The poor man really did lose something dear to him as a result of the ferocious beast rampage. Mr. Sholm's deductions turned out to be correct once again. It can only be described as a great British wonder. Switch over to Sammy for a moment here. Come on. Get her all cozy. I tell you, it was total carnage. Flames everywhere, and the old stick in full fettle. Out of interest, what time of day was that? I'm not sure I can remember. It was 2 days ago now. Let's see, around 5 o'clock, I think? So at exactly the same time as a terrifying incident was unfolding outside your window on the street below. Even more terrifying on the inside, I can assure you. The whole of Blighty could have been flattened outside my window at that moment, and I wouldn't have noticed a dashed thing. Oh, really? But we also know that there was a fire visible from the window at that point, too. Mr. Sholmes. Yes, Mr. Naruhodo? What can I do for you? Well, I think we've got to the bottom of Mr. Garrudub's situation now. But what does it have to do with Mr. Natsume's circumstances? I can't help you there, I'm afraid. Huh? My dear fellow, if you recall, I did say as much from the outset. I warned you that although I knew the retired army man to be hiding something, I could not be sure whether his secret would prove to be of relevance or not. I just knew you were going to say that. Now, Mr. Naruhodo, you mustn't lose heart. Bear in mind that all things fall into one of only two categories, those relevant to the case and those not. That makes no sense to me. I mean, I guess true. Well, no matter. It is of far greater importance that you make up your mind now. Huh? Visiting hours at the prison will soon be over. Oh no, is it that time already? If we're to accept Mr. Natsume's case, we have official paperwork to attend to. So that's it. No more time to think. Perhaps you'd like to betake yourselves to bidding us farewell now? I must prepare supper for Mr. Garrudub. Oh, yes, sorry. Thank you both very much for your time. Soseki will be waiting for us, and I'm going to have to give him an answer. An answer that we will see next time we play. Good times. We got to see another one of the little deduction mini games. Those are neat. The idea of just shifting the point of view a little bit so you can see what the actual clue is supposed to be. Oh, good times, though. Good times. Let's see. So, we will not be streaming tomorrow, as per usual. We do seem to be getting back on schedule. This is good. I feel like, assuming something doesn't come up, might bust out Power Wash Simulator on Friday. Be a nice change of pace. And they do have that SpongeBob thing that they added in, which could be amusing. Apparently, in the near-ish future, there's going to be a Warhammer 40,000 thing for it too, and also down for that. So, not sure, but we'll know at some point on Friday what we'll be streaming for sure. So, I do want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. I hope you had a good time playing some great Ace Attorney with us. And I hope to see you next time we stream, which should be Friday. Have a good night, everybody.